Welcome to A Catholic Moment. Today's May 1st. This month marks the 100th anniversary of an incredible event that happened in the year 1917. I am, of course, as a Catholic, talking about the visions of Fatima in Portugal. For those of you who don't know what that is about, let me give you a quick rundown. On May 13th, 1917, during World War I in Portugal, in this small town called Fatima, three shepherd kids, two girls and a boy, were hanging out, and they had a vision. They both saw this bright light. If I'm correct, and for those of you who want to correct me on this if I'm wrong, comment below. First, there was an angel that appeared to them, telling them that the Virgin Mary would appear to them at that very same spot. So, eventually, I believe it was probably a month later, or it could have been that very day, the Virgin Mary appeared to them and told them that things were going to go down, basically, in this world, regarding God, regarding Him wanting to save so many people, and regarding the conversion of Russia to Mary's Immaculate Heart. Of course, they try to keep it as a secret amongst themselves, these three kids, but being kids, you can't keep something, secret for too long. The town got wind of it. Parents weren't happy. The government wasn't happy. As a matter of fact, there were accounts that they interrogated the kids. It's as if they were afraid of something, that was going to go down. They were going to, there were reports that they threatened to boil them alive in oil. But at this point, the kids, I guess they were using it as a scare tactic to make them stop, because they thought they were being ridiculous and they were causing a stir in the community. It was a small community. And the kids, the three kids stuck to their story, and they saw three visions that the Virgin Mary kind of allowed them to see. The first one traumatized them, apparently. It was a vision of hell, of souls falling into hell by the thousands. It looked like snowflakes in a snowstorm. How the snow falls, that's how many souls were falling into damnation. They saw the lake of fire, what seemed to be a sea of fire, reminiscent of what's described in Revelation chapter 21 as the lake of fire, chapter 20 rather. And and they were not happy. As a matter of fact, they said that they were glad that the Virgin Mary delivered them from that when they asked, because they just couldn't take it anymore. It's traumatizing to show kids a vision like that. So my thing is, why do that? The second vision was the Virgin Mary telling them about how Russia would spread her errors throughout the world. Keep in mind, the following year, the Bolshevik Revolution happened that brought in the Soviet Union and began the spread of the atheistic philosophy known as communism throughout the world. And so then Mary made a warning that if the Pope needed to, any Pope, whoever Pope, had to consecrate Russia to her Immaculate Heart. So that was the second vision. The third vision, this is the most controversial one and the one most shrouded in mystery, because it was not told at all. One of the kids, named Lucia, who was the only real surviving member who lived to be of an old age, she died around a little over 10 years ago, if I'm correct, in her 90s. The other two kids died early on, actually, not too far after the visions were made from illness. But Lucia held on to this third secret in her heart, And she finally was asked to write it down because she got sick for a bit and they thought she was going to die. And they were worried that the secret would die with her. So she wrote it down. And she told them not to open the vision until 1960. And they said, why not 1960? And she said, because it would be clearer then. 1960 came and went. The Pope at the time, which if I'm correct, was Pope John the 23rd. I could be wrong. I'm not looking at my sources right now. I'm just kind of going off the cuff here. He read it and he said it wasn't for his pontificate. So it wasn't for his time. So he didn't reveal it, even though it was told that it should be revealed at that time. So it finally was allegedly revealed in the year 2000, where it talked about a bishop in white being shot up by a group of armed men with arrows and machine guns on the top of a hill in a devastated city. A bishop in white, to be exact, and that would be a pope of some sorts. A lot of people thought that this was a prediction of the assassination attempt of Pope John Paul II back in 1980, which makes no dang sense because he wasn't, first of all, shot dead, let alone by a bunch of arrows and a bunch of bullets, flying bullets by a bunch of gunmen in a destroyed city. That doesn't match what actually happened at all. So, I don't know why they thought that, it predicted that. No, it didn't. Why am I talking about this? Why is this important? Look, there's a lot of information about the visions of Fatima. I'll put the link below. I'll put links below to different sources for you to research it in more detail. But the thing that has concerned me is this, and this goes to another vision that had happened 33 years before 1917. In, I believe, the year 1884, or was it 1887? It's one of those 2 years. Pope Leo XIII had some kind of a vision, or at least a audio vision of Lucifer, of Satan. Remember this guy? Yeah, him. Telling God, I will destroy your church. I can destroy your church. And God said, oh yeah? Go ahead. And Satan said, I need time. And God said, how much time do you want? And he said, give me 100 years. And God said, you have the time. And so what's funny, and the reason why I want to share this is because it's funny how first of all, nobody knows when the 100 years of testing of Satan to try to destroy the church, the Catholic Church, when he says that, will take place. I'd like to think that maybe it may have started in 1917. Maybe that's when the 100-year countdown began. And that's why Mary appeared to the three shepherd children in Fatima, because she knew that it would be through the errors of what Russia was going to do. A year later, with the Bolshevik Revolution and the rise of the Soviet Union, it would start to spread its errors throughout the world. Many countries becoming communist in nature, destroying churches. You got to understand something. All these communist countries, China, Russia, North Korea, Vietnam for a minute. Let me tell you, all of those countries, persecuted Christians by the millions over the past century, during the world wars and all that kind of stuff. So it's something to think about. It makes you wonder if this is Satan's attempt to destroy his church, but not just that way, not just from without, but from within as well. Ever since, and let's be clear here, ever since the 1960s, there has been a kind of more of a liberal approach by, not all, of course, but by some church officials, higher ups, and people in the lower ranks as well, to want to try to change different aspects of church doctrine to the point that her teachings, the church's teachings on morality, become eventually compromised. Okay? And we've seen that in many ways and formats throughout the years, where it's starting, like, I've seen it. I've seen it myself. Like, wait a minute, the church has always taught X, Y, and Z. Why these certain priests or church leaders or whatever trying to say, no, let's change it to this and that and this and that, And that's, to me, it's a little bit more scary than an outright persecution straight up. Because at least with the outright persecution straight up, at least it's in your face. At least you see it for what it is, But this one is coming from within the church, like a wolf in sheep's clothing, like a false prophet. That's scarier, because that's more dangerous. It's possible that more souls can be lost from that kind of temptation, from that kind of deception. And they did say that in the end times, even the elect would be deceived. It says so in Scripture. One must wonder if this May 13th coming up marks not only the 100th anniversary, 100-year anniversary of the visions of Fatima, but maybe it marks the end of the 100 years of Satan's attempt to destroy the Church of Christ. If that is true, what will happen afterwards? It's a thought. It's interesting. Of course, I don't mean to be so, doomsday, the end of the world. And trust me, I'm going to have a lot of moments about that. And a later time, we'll discuss, there's so many topics about that covers it. But because it is the 100th year anniversary of the visions of Fatima, so many people have come to know Jesus and his mother and the church he founded because of this incredible phenomena that took place in Fatima, Portugal 100 years ago. That people all over the world go to pilgrimages to Fatima to see the place where it happened. It's an amazing, beautiful story. They've made documentaries about it. They've made movies about it. The miracle of the sun, when Lucia told everybody that, hey, guess what? The Virgin told me that she's going to do a miracle on October 13th in 2017, that October. So a whole bunch of people got together, and there's newspaper articles about this from back in the day. There's, accounts and testimony of people that were there that saw what happened. First of all, it was raining. Everybody had umbrellas open. And then all of a sudden, it stopped raining. The sun came out, and all of a sudden it started moving in the sky and jumping up and down, and it started getting bigger. And people thought it was the end of the world, and, and all this kind of stuff, that the sun was falling to earth and all that. And then people got healed, and then it stopped. And then everything got dry. It wasn't wet anymore. And there was the smell of, I think, flowers in the air or something like that. And that was a supernatural vision, a supernatural expression of God's love for us, of God telling us, come to me with all your heart, and do not let your sin pull you away from me. I'd like to think that, and I guess this is my feeble attempt to kind of make the connection between Pope Leo XIII's vision of the 100-year persecution of Satan's attempt to try to destroy his church and the 100th anniversary of Fatima. Are the two connected? Probably not. Probably not. I'm probably just making this up in my head because people want to connect these kind of things. People want to make sense of it all. We all have this fascination for the desire to know what's to come. The topic of end time prophecy and stuff like that, it fascinates many people. It scares some people, and they don't even want to come near it. People like me, I want to dive right into it without going crazy, though, because there's a lot of loonies out there that have ended up creating all these crazy cults throughout the centuries. I could tell you stories, and I will eventually, but keep in mind that this is the 100th anniversary of the visions of Fatima, and the primary goal of those visions, I truly believe, because these are visions that have been officially approved by the church as being real. Okay? So if the church says it's real, guess what, people? It's real. Christ Church does not bluff, because God does not bluff. I believe that this was a vision. These were visions to help bring people to Christ, because Mary knew what was coming. The Second World War, which was explained in the second vision, and the spread of communism throughout the world, and all of those kind of things. It's an amazing story that one should research in order to really learn and appreciate one's faith more. It sure has done wonders for my faith. I find myself asking for the Blessed Virgin's intercession on a more regular basis now, as opposed to when I was younger. When I was younger, I was into the whole I shouldn't talk to Mary kind of thing. But now I understand her role, that it is not idolatry. It is not taking God's place or that whole thing at all. I get it now. And with that, I want to invite you guys to take a look at that, So this was a moment, and I hope you enjoyed. Take care.